Hello and welcome to Sunday Night Conversations. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. This is a show brought to you by D1Baseball.com. We want to say special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Netting Pros. Netting Pros specializes in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting and padding for college baseball programs all around the country. The next time your field or facility needs something new, whether that be netting, wall padding, L screens, or ball carts, make sure you check out our friends at Netting Pros. These guys are awesome. Their products are awesome. You're going to see them at the convention. They truly love our sport, and their stuff is amazing. So really appreciate the folks at Netting Pros for helping us put this on. If this is your first time with Sunday Night Conversations, this is just an excuse for me to talk college baseball. If I'm really being honest with myself, we've had a ton of fun. 2 years ago, we took it as a way to showcase the volunteer coaches in college baseball who operate and work so hard behind the scenes. Now we don't have volunteer coaches, which is great. Last year we did more theme stuff like, hey, let's talk catching, let's talk pitching, let's talk hitting, etc. This year I've just gotten totally selfish, and I'm talking to people that I know would be fun conversations with, for me. And so my theory is, if I think it's fun, I'm hoping you as the listener thinks it's fun. So that brings us to tonight. And I've got the great Tom Holliday here. And TH, usually what I do is I let the guest give us their resume. You're not going to get to do that tonight. I am going to give your resume. And it just, what gave me the idea here is that obviously you and I have known each other a long time, got to compete against each other. I think so highly of what you've done in the game, your sons, and now you've got, these grandsons, these grandchildren that are doing awesome things in the game. And, obviously Jackson's the number one prospect in all of baseball. Ethan's the number one prospect in the class of 2025. And so, I'm not a math teacher, but that's 3 generations of just outstanding work in our game. And so, all right, TH, I'm going to go through the resume, and I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this thing. And feel free to correct me on any of this stuff. So you were born in Uniontown, PA, as I told you before we hit record. It's the only thing on your resume I don't like is that you're a Steelers fan, not an Eagles fan. That's not your fault. You were born on the wrong side of the state of Pennsylvania. We don't get to pick these things. TH, 40 years you spent in Division I baseball, which is amazing. This is even more amazing. You've been to the College World Series 17 times. That is unbelievable. When you guys were at Oklahoma State, you guys won the Big 8 14 times. Not 14 times, 14 times in a row. You won the Big 8 14 times in a row. You've got 2 national title rings. You were part of the 1977 Arizona State staff. You were part of the 2005 University of Texas staff. You're as a head coach, you took a team to the College World Series, and then you took a team to the Cape Cod Championship Series, which is really cool. And then what really gave me the idea for tonight, TH, and then I promise I will ask you the first question. Your family. I think we all realize that if you're in high-level sports, family is tough, right? Like, these jobs are not 9-to-5 jobs. You're all in. This is your life. And your wife, Kathy, she should do clinics on being a coach's wife. I don't say that in any exaggeration. Kathy Holliday should literally run clinics on how to be a coach's wife. Your brother Dave, you guys got to build that program with Coach Ward together at Oklahoma State. Then your son, Josh, obviously has taken a team to Omaha. Matt, 15 years in the big leagues, won a World Series, over 2,000 hits. And now, the grandchildren. Olivia Holliday is the GOAT, right? She's awesome. She helped us get set up tonight. I had a college coach today tell me that, even though Jackson and Ethan get all the hype, they said Brady is a really good player and is going to be a fun player to follow. And I'd have never met Grayson or Reed, which are Matt and Leslie's 2 younger kids. And then obviously Jenny Holliday is, Josh's wife is awesome. We've known her forever. So just everything, your career, your life, TH, is so awesome. So here is my first question for you. How did you get to Yavapai? So you're a Pittsburgh kid. You go to Yavapai for baseball, which is where I live in Prescott, Arizona. And then you ended up playing at Miami. But how did you get from Western PA to Yavapai?
Mike, it was kind of weird. I changed schools from the Catholic school to the city school to play football. And so I played 3 years of football, and I got to quarterback 2 of them. And I was privileged to quarterback a team that didn't win a game my senior year.
Oh, no.
And I still had probably 150 football scholarships. And you know what? When that season was over, you never want to coach. You never want to quarterback a bad team. And I did. And I didn't want to play anymore, even though I still love football. And the only letter I got for baseball was from some place called Yavapai. And we didn't even know how to pronounce it. And the most consistent letter I got every week with a message that was personal was from Yavapai Junior College. And one Saturday morning, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I got to start thinking about one of these schools. And, he was like Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State. And, I kept going through and I go, and here's that Yavapai guy. And my dad said, you know what, you ought to call that guy because he's the most consistent guy of all and just see what it's like. So I did. And, slowly but surely, I gave up my love for football just went out. I went and made my typical visits like everybody else. And, I came back from Notre Dame thinking, I don't know if I'm good enough. Remember, I quarterbacked the team that didn't win a game. How good am I? And I questioned myself. And then when I met Paterno told me that he heard I was going to be a great strong safety. And I was like, uh-oh, I never played strong safety. So it's a position change coming. And I wanted to play quarterback, and that was it, And so I chose Yavapai. And I don't even know if our town wrote it up. They were so mad at me for not going to the big time schools and keeping up the tradition of our high school. But I chose Yavapai. It was the best thing I ever did.
That's awesome. Was Coach Ward the coach you played for there, or this was before even Coach Ward got there?
No, this was Coach Ward all the way.
Oh my gosh. That's so great. He's recruiting against Notre Dame football, Penn State football. That might be the recruiting landing of all time.
You know what, Mike? He actually knew it because he had cornered off of a questionnaire he sent me. I put a scout down that lived like 10 miles from my house for a reference, and he had called him.
Wow.
And the scout, never forget, Cecil Cole, told Coach Ward, I don't think you'll ever get him because of football. And so Coach Ward never gave up. And it was funny, Mike. All I wanted was warm weather, get out of Pennsylvania, get out of the cold air, play baseball. And when I landed in Phoenix, it was like the 10th of August. And I got out and I said, oh man, did I score this? And by the time I got out of the car in Prescott, it was about 58 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, where are we? And of course, I didn't even look. I didn't know Prescott was a mile and a half up and out from Phoenix. So
that's awesome. And of course, your wife is from Prescott. She's a Prescott native. I live there now. It's the greatest town. It is good for your power numbers. The air is thinner up here. Hey, so let me ask you this, TH. So you went from Yavapai to Miami, and that's one of the themes in your career. First of all, let me give Uniontown, PA some credit. So you're from there. The great Gene Sarator is from there. Chuck Muncie is from there. General George Marshall, famous general, Terry Mulholland. Who's the NBA guy that was the announcer that you mentioned, Stu
Lance.
Stu Lance was a Lakers announcer.
Basketball player in the NBA.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you went to Miami, was Skip Bertman Ron Frazier's assistant, or had that partnership not happened yet?
Well, that was Skip's first year at Miami because Skip was a famous high school coach in Miami. And when I quit playing, Skip was being rumored to be coming in there. So I go out and I play in the Pirate organization. And of course, in those days, it was all done differently. And it came around to December after I finished the season. And we're at Kathy's house and we find out that we're going to have baby number one. I graduated college. We bought a brand new car. And I got released on January 2nd from the Pirates.
Oh, no.
I had no job. I had nothing. And on the 3rd of January, Coach Frazier called me right out of the clear blue sky. I mean, we just went to bed thinking, now what? So I wake up and Coach Frazier's telling me that he's got a job open and Coach Polk had taken, I think, the Georgia Southern job. And so Polky left. And I was like, Coach, what do you want me to do? And he says, the hitters, they're all yours.
Oh, wow.
I said, Coach, are you sure? Because Coach Frazier and I had kind of like one of those, not a real lovey-dovey friendship. I mean, he was kind of hard to play for. And he's like, Tom, I talked to the guys. They want you. what are you making? I said, right now, nothing. And he's like, so what's your plan? I said, well, probably use my education. And he said, no, what'd you make in pro bowl? I said, 500 a month. He goes, oh, no. I'll get you 1,500. I'll get you a place to live. I'll get Kathy a job. You just be down here as soon as you can. I said, okay. When? He goes, in 2 days, we start practice. So I got off the phone, told Kathy, and we packed we just got a new car, so we made it pretty easy, but we were there in 48 hours.
That's so great. And that's another theme for your career, TH, for me as an outsider, is that, like, look at these people that you got to be in the dugout with. Ron Frazier, Skip Bertman, Gary Ward, Jim Brock, Augie Garrido, Elliot Avent. I mean, just, it's, that part is so cool. So I want to fast forward. We're going to come back to, I have so many things I want to ask you. One of the questions I'm not going to get to, I'm sure, is that who is the greatest, knowing that you were a quarterback now, I didn't realize that. But I think the question that America wants to know the answer to is, who is the best Stillwater High Pioneer quarterback of all time? Was it Josh Fields? Was it Josh Holliday? Was it Matt Holliday? But let's save that one for now. The answer is Josh Holliday, but let's save that. So I'm sort of kidding. So you and your brother and Coach Ward go to Oklahoma State. I think it's like the late 70s. You had been at Arizona State for that 77 national title. You'd been at Miami for a little bit. So Oklahoma State, to my knowledge, was a non-factor in college baseball, and you guys turn it into one of the historic brands in our sport. Like, you can't think college baseball history without thinking about Oklahoma State baseball. I mean, I mentioned the 14 straight Big 8 championships. You guys, in the 80s, you went to Omaha 7 straight years. That's insanity. Right now, if a team goes 4 straight years, it's mind-boggling. So here's my question, TH. When you guys got the job at Oklahoma State, in those first 5, 6, 7 years, was there like a turning point? Was there a team that turned the worm where you guys go from, hey, we're getting pretty dang good here, to we're ready to do this thing on a big-time stage?
Mike, our first year, we took what we could find. And Coach Brock treated me so good at Arizona State that he literally gave me the Arizona State recruiting files and said, stay away from anybody that I have a star, and you can recruit the rest of them. And this was like in June. So I'm on the phone every day, all day long, and calling kids that I knew nothing about and selling my background, which was very limited. But we had a good team. And Coach Ward had won the national title at Yavapai. So we got 10 or 12 of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part was letting kids go from Oklahoma State, because we let most of them go. We kept 5 guys. And that's a big turnover in those days. That was hard to do. So we did it. We were good the first year, not great. And we came into an area where Oral Roberts had just been to the World Series. Oklahoma University had been there 3 years in a row. And I knew that, but I didn't realize it. Like, they were like breathing on us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be a real challenge. And then we get there, and the field was a catastrophe. I mean, the guy that was let go ordered dirt, and he was released from his job. They brought the dirt, so he just dumped it in the middle of the infield. We couldn't even see when we pulled up. We couldn't see the mound or anything. And I was like, whoa, is this the right town or what? And so we're like, ooh, we're stuck here now. We took this job. And so I called Coach Ward, and I was like teasing him. I said, Coach, you got to be kidding. He goes, hey, I'll be there in about 4 or 5 days. Get that place ready for practice. I said, Coach, I never did anything like that. I'm not a groundskeeper. So my brother-in-law came, and he was a grounds guy. And he and my brother Dave and I were like 12, 14 hours. It's like 105 degrees. We're getting chiggers, which I didn't know what a chigger was. We're getting bit by everything that could bite you, and moving dirt and raking and water. And it never rained in Oklahoma at that time. It still doesn't until, the fall's over. But we got it ready, and we were sitting there, and we had already decided this was going to be some kind of challenge. And really, when the kids got there, it was a relief just to get off the field, to quit raking and stuff. So it took us, I'm going to say 2 years. After our second year, we could see it. And we'd seen that we're not going to get the local kid, because the success OU had, the real good ones were going there. So I recruited the entire country, and we didn't have a lot of budget, Mike. So the problem was, how was I going to get to certain places? So we, as the three of us were, we pull all of our mileage on our flights into the same airlines so we could build up a free ticket. And we did everything we could to get a free ticket to go anywhere, area code games, you name it. I mean, I'd go, but we sit around there, and trust me, we had to go to happy hours to eat because we didn't have any
Right.
meal. And after we got to that fourth year, we were really, really good. And we just needed to get, over that hump of beating the local guys, because the regionals were 16 regionals, and it kept all the good guys in the same regional. So everybody in the area would show up. We'd play each other, and we'd show up in the regional. And after 4 years, we got there. And then it was just about replacing the good players with a player just as good or better. And I mean, sometimes I talk to Josh about how he works 8 to 8, 8 to 11. It was that way, except for dinner. You'd have dinner with your kids, hug on them, and get on the phone. And I probably got turned down 100 times out of 101. But if I got one out of every 100 phone calls, that was pretty good. Because I'm going to tell you, I ran phone bills up like people couldn't believe it. We had to turn our phone bills in to get reimbursed. I was getting more money for my phone bill than I was getting paid in salary.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, so the two famous players from that region, or I should say the most famous players, were, Pete Incaviglia, and, he's the Babe Ruth of college baseball, and then Robin Ventura is the Joe DiMaggio of college baseball. When those two guys got on campus, was it like the most obvious thing in the world, or was, because they're both California guys, if I'm not mistaken, or did it take a little bit into the fall where you're like, okay, we're really on to something here?
Well, I had bumped into Pete Incaviglia's brother when I was at Arizona State. We were playing a JV game, and he was playing third for Arizona. And I didn't realize how much they were supposed to hate each other. So I was coaching third, and he's playing third. And after about 5 innings, he leans over and he goes, "Hey, are you Italian?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Don't forget, I got a little brother, Pete. Don't forget my little brother, Pete." So I leave, and then about 2 years later, I said, I wonder where that Incaviglia kid is. So I went back and I checked, and he was going into a senior year. And that was still really early in those days.
Yep.
So I went and saw Pete at the end of his senior year at a tryout up in Northern California at Cal Berkeley. And I mean, they had already cut him after infield because of the way he threw the ball. And I begged the guy, who was a good friend of mine later on, Larry Carrico, I begged Larry to let him at least hit so I could see it. And he hit, and they come walking over laughing. I went, "He's on the team." And I said, "Yeah, I hope so." So, I stayed there and watched it. And after it was over, I got in my car. I followed Pete back to Monterey and signed him. I mean,
Awesome.
I wasn't coming home without Pete Incaviglia. And he gave us the guy when we played University of Minnesota. Coach Ward leaned over to me in a regional. He said, "We have to get some guys like that. We need some thumpers in the middle of the order." Because we just had a collection of good players. We didn't have that intimidating 3, 4, and 5. Well, after we got Pete, we did. We started building our lineup the way we wanted, and winning and getting to Omaha really, really helped. Yep. And then we just try to always replace. We always wanted to have a leader, a star. And Pete leaves, Ventura's out there. We get Robin Ventura. After Robin leaves, we get Jeremy Burnitz. I mean, it was kind of like a pattern that we had set up. And college baseball was growing. Like, that's when ESPN started televising Monday night games, and they helped college baseball get its feet on the ground.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this question, TH. So, obviously you won a national title at Texas with Augie. You were part of a national title team at Arizona State, the 77 team, all your Oklahoma State teams. So this is going to be a hard question, but what's the most talented team you've been part of? What's the most talented team you've coached?
Wow. To say talent-wise, it was probably that Arizona State team. I mean, Coach Brock, and Coach Brock, was a different guy. And at that time, you said Arizona State, it attracted the best. I was coming from a Miami team that had just played in the College World Series for the first time in Miami's history. And we thought we were good, but I got news for you. When Coach Brock hired me and I went in there and me basically said, you're going to coach all the freshmen and our catchers, and we don't have a catcher. You got to make this kid Bando into our catcher or I'll fire you. And I was there 10 days and I got told I'd get fired if I didn't teach Chris Bando how to catch. And so I was like, wow. And I looked at it, and the only position that they didn't have a total stud was catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt a lot of pressure. And thank God that Chris's mom, his parents came, left Ohio, and came to Arizona for the winter. They were living like 2 doors down from us. So I got to talk to him every night about little things he had done that day. And Chris and I were really close. One of the nicest kids I ever coached in my life. So I think that was the best team, player for player. I think the pitching staff I had at Texas was the best pitching staff I ever had. And, it's like, you can win championships with a bat. You can win them on the mound. And I think that I would feel safe to say, try to have a little bit of both.
Hey, 2 follow-ups on that. Was Chris Bando the older brother of Sal Bando, or Sal was older than Chris?
No, Chris was the older brother.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris was a second baseman at Arizona State who hadn't played much. And Sal was on those great Oakland A teams. And, Sal came and we sat out there and had iced tea so many times. It was the most fun of my life at that point. And Sal just kept saying, Coach Brock's different, Tom. He's different. And I kept saying, yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I worked for Coach Frazier for a year. So here I am working for Coach. And I'm thinking, he's different, but he treats us like gold, Kathy and I. And so I really admired what I learned from Coach Brock. But it was funny that Sal kept saying, Tom, teach Chris everything about catching. He is into you totally. And so Sal Jr. came along, and I was at Arizona State, and I recruited Sal Jr. to Oklahoma State.
That's awesome. Who were some of the famous arms on the 05 Texas team that won it all, TH?
Well, we had Cal McCullough, J. Brent Cox, Adrian Alanis.
Alanis was like a college guy. I feel like he was a big winner on that team.
Oh, geez. I mean, you know what, Mike? We had a team ERA of like 2.10, and in Omaha, we only gave up like two earned runs, and they were all freshmen. The year before, we were loaded. We had 2 or 3 guys that pitched in the big leagues. Houston Street, J.P. Howe. It was the next year that we won it. Fullerton beat us. We finished second in 4, I think, or 5.
That's right. Yep.
Right in there, 4. And then 5, we won the national title, and we did it with pitching and defense. We had a team batting average of 240. 240 in a loaded aluminum bat era. But we played defense, and we pitched, and we got timely hits, and we bunted in the first inning, which Tom Holliday had never done in his life. But Augie was a winner. He knew how to win. He knew his club. He knew we weren't going to hit the long ball a lot. So he said, we're gonna teach these guys how to hit in the clutch. And now you call it small ball, but we played it. And it was a learning experience when I was 50 years old, right when you start to think you figured everything out.
That's so awesome. So awesome. So, all right. So TH, let's take that tangent. So you got to be around Coach Frazier. You got to be around Skip Bertman. You got to be around Jim Brock. You got to be around Augie Garrido. So those 4 men all won national titles in baseball. They, to me, feel like 4 super different humans, but they all have won a national title in baseball. So is there like a common thread in there, or it was like 4 totally unique experiences?
Well, I'll tell you this, they were all unique people. And, if you just said something about it, be like Brock, discipline. Garrido, fun and prepared. Brock, was a guy that he did it through intimidation. Coach Frazier did it through trying to make you feel the expectation of Miami baseball is to win, when we really didn't have that big a background. I mean, when I played my junior year was the first year they ever been to the College World Series. But Frazier took that and he rolled it. And I mean, and they got there a bunch after that. And Coach Ward came from a stern, learn your job, do your job. It is a business, whether they want to call it or not. And, oh, by the way, you better be eligible. I mean, it was just one of those, it was a baseball job in college.
Yeah.
And at a time when kids wanted discipline and they liked the idea of going away from home for something new, we took advantage of that. And of course, remember now, I spent 18, 19 years with Coach Ward. So I kind of knew him inside and out. The other guys, you know, I mean, the first year I went against Coach Brock in Omaha when I was at Oklahoma State, we kind of jabbed at each other. And then when it was over, you know, he came over and hugged me.
That's awesome. That's so cool. All right, so let me ask you this, TH. Let's fast forward. Okay, so now, you know, you and Kathy have two boys, right? You've got Matt and Josh, and you know, that's a big part of your story, obviously. Josh, you know, has taken Oklahoma State to 10 straight regionals, which is a huge number in today's era of college baseball. You know, Matt, we mentioned his background, obviously, is incredible. So let's start there. Like, I think, okay, I'm a coach, and now I've got two sons who are like real players. You know, like Josh is a Division I player. He gets to play in Omaha. Matt obviously is a big leaguer. How did you and Kathy go about doing that? Like, hey, we coach people for a living, but now we're going to coach our two sons. Like, how did you do that?
You know, Mike, we kind of had this funny little routine. They would do their thing, and at dinner, we had dinner at night at the same time every night. If I was busy, I shut it down, went home for dinner, and so I'd catch up on the boys and what they did. And they knew that I had to get on the phone and start recruiting. And I think Josh used to sit around listening to conversations. Matt was a little bit confused by what I did for a living early. Mm-hmm. And Josh kind of caught on to it. And, you know, he'd hear me basically going as deep as you could go into talking to a kid from New Jersey to come to Stillwater, Oklahoma. And I did it. Then I had to get off the phone. He'd say, Dad, what was he saying? How did he react? He always wanted to know what was going on. And then Kathy would come in and say, guys, it's time to go to bed. So we didn't hide anything from them. And we wanted them to understand that going to college was a big deal, was a big decision. And we wanted them to have that decision someday. And of course they did. But, you know, we made sure we were on the same page, Kathy and I. She fed them. We made sure that they were eating right. She did. I mean, I didn't understand what eating right was. I mean, because I just ate because the body said eat.
Right.
And it was just that way. But the bottom line was she was into that, and, you know, she kept them doing that. And, you know, both of them got into weightlifting and stuff like that real young. And I think it helped both of them mature early. And at one time, you know, Josh was, by one of the publications, was voted the most ready to play in the big leagues kid coming out of high school. So it just meant like, hey, we've done something right. And he went to the first deal in Cincinnati where they had all the best kids in the country. And I was trying to find him good wood bats, you know, and all our guys in pro ball, I kept saying, hey, send me some wood in a hurry. Josh has to go to a deal. So he took one of Pete's bats, and, you know, he kind of put on a show. And, you know, to be a switch hitting catcher, Josh was very, very good and smart, could call his own game. He was way ahead of the game. And, you know, deep down inside, he really wanted to go to college. Yeah. And Minnesota took it right down to the last minute. And it was a difference of like $2,000 or $3,000. I offered Minnesota $2,000 or $3,000 to get it to $400 so that Josh could sign. And they're like, you're out of your mind. I said, the kid wants to sign, but he told you $400. He will not change. Mm-hmm. I can't change his mind. You're going to have to do what Josh said. They didn't believe that. Well, Josh ended up in college because they stopped at $395.
That's awesome.
That's how that one ended up. And when Matt came along, it was a different war because he was a seriously good football player. And, being dad, I had to climb out. And I went to other people for opinions on Matt because I thought he was the greatest quarterback I ever seen in high school. And better than me, way better than me. And so, Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wanstad were friends, and I sent him film, and I said, guys, whatever you do, take this seriously. I don't know how good this kid is. Tell me. And both of them said, without a doubt, he's a Marino Elway clone. Whatever you do, this kid will only be in college 3 years. He'll be in the NFL. So now I'm comfortable because whatever happens in the draft happens.
Sure.
I know Matt's got a future in football. I knew Matt liked baseball, but Matt was a little quiet. He was just God gifted. He threw the football like unbelievable. In fact, they wanted to make him a tight end in high school, and Josh turned that around. But the fact was, Matt was just, he's just God gifted. And so when he gets drafted, I thought the Yankees were going to take him in the first round, but they were afraid of football. I thought Pittsburgh had locked in on him in the first round. They were afraid of football. And so he goes in the 7th round, and that was it. He's going to play football. And I don't know, 3 weeks later, he knocked on our door and said, hey, Dad, can we talk? And I was like, uh-oh, midnight talk. This isn't good. And so we went out and sat outside by the pool, and he just said, Dad, I want to sign. You're going to have a battle with the football coach with me. And I kept saying, Matt, I'm the head coach. You don't need to worry about that. You'll play football in the fall, baseball in the spring. He goes, yeah, but he'll make me double up in the spring. So he had done some of his homework too.
Mm-hmm.
And so within, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, we got him done. We got him signed with the Rockies, and we got a nice deal for him. And 3 years later, if they didn't like him, we could cut our ties, and he could have went and played football. We had a really unique agreement.
Oh, nice.
They wanted him, and they kept him, and I guess he ended up being a pretty good baseball player.
How about it? Were Josh and Matt close enough in age where they could play high school football and baseball together?
They played 1 year of baseball together, and then Matt picked up when Josh left off, in football. And Josh was Fran Tarkenton in football. He was so good, so fun to watch, but he was crazy. I mean, he would take a middle linebacker on straight on and get up dizzy and walk back in the huddle. And the fun of that, Mike, was Josh taught Matt the offense when Matt was taking over. He knew the offense better than the coaches at Stillwater High School. So Josh actually taught him the terminology. Because Matt was just like, hey, I'm going to go back 5 steps and throw it, or 3 steps and throw it, or I'm going to hand off. That's all he knew, but he was just so good. And to watch him help him ease in and take his place, Stillwater High School was fun to watch for a while. I mean, and then here comes a kid named Fields,
Right.
They're pretty good for a while there.
Was that 3 straight quarterbacks for the Stillwater High Pioneers? Was Josh Holliday, Matt Holliday, Josh Fields, who becomes a first-round pick and a big leaguer with the White Sox?
Yeah. And, Josh Fields had a unique thing. He committed to come, and we changed football coaches. And Les Miles came in, and Les didn't want him. Les didn't see it on film.
Mm-hmm.
He kept saying, Tom, he's not taking me to a national title. And I said, whoa. National title. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but he's pretty good. I wouldn't say no to this kid. This kid's competitive. So, and I had a little at stake there because he could hit a baseball too. So, I did all I could to keep Coach Miles on top of Josh Fields, and I'm glad we got him.
Oh, that's so great. So, let's go to the grandkids, because this is gotten so fun, right? Like, obviously, Josh and Matt are famous in our baseball community, and now I can't wait to watch Brady grow up. We all know Olivia because we met Olivia when she was a kid. Obviously she was in Arizona when Josh was at Arizona State, and Matt's career is obviously high profile. So let's focus on Ethan and Jackson for a second. So what is this like? You're the grandfather of these 2 kids that are mega prospects. but also you're the father of their dads, right? Who have baseball backgrounds. What has that been like for you? You know, I'll leave it very open-ended. It must be a blast to watch Jackson and Ethan do what they're doing.
Well, it's kind of funny, Mike. When they were little rascals, we just like we were little. When my kids were little, we played wiffle ball all the time. It was the only thing we could play without having to get all decked out and go to the field. So we played a lot of wiffle ball. And the real oddity was when I was at Auburn and Sonny Galloway got dismissed. So I was like, I had nothing to do, and it was November, December. So we went to Jupiter and spent time with Matt, and now I get to see Jackson. He's getting to the age of, it's getting pretty serious now. Be careful what you say to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, go back to the way it used to be. Tell him how to do this, how to do that. Tell him properly. Don't let him do it wrong and say, that's almost. No, there was no almost ever. It was get it right. And Jackson could imitate swings of big leaguers from the time he could be with his dad, and get into the locker rooms. I mean, we would sit and watch games in the stands, but Jackson was a great imitator. And then you just kind of realized that you couldn't say anything about baseball that he didn't accept. It was going in and sticking. So Jax was quiet, just like his dad, and not missing anything. And I got to coach him for about maybe a month when he was in ninth grade. He was playing for a private school in Jupiter. And the coach kept saying, what do you think we should do with Jackson? I think we should put him in center field, because Jackson was starting to run real good. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying, why would you not want him at shortstop? You got to have a great shortstop. Well, we know we got another kid that's pretty good at short. So I had to fight this guy off. He wanted to put him at second, center field. And I said, you let him compete with that kid, and we'll see which one is the winner. So by the time they were done, Jax wins out. And then when, everything moved up here to Stillwater, he was the new kid, but he was really good. And you just left him alone because he was always prepared. And I think Jax is like, he's just one of those guys that he can quiet the moment better than any kid I've ever seen. Nothing gets him excited. You can throw 100, you can throw 80. The 3-pitch at bat with him was so sincere. It was so important to him. It was just step back and shut up and watch, because this guy's exceptional. And his eye-hand coordination, I mean, Mike, when he was a little kid, I could flip him paper at the dinner table and he'd get a straw and he hit it with a straw. And he wouldn't even pay attention to what we were eating or when the food was coming. He just always wanted to hit something. And he never missed, which was kind of freaky. Mm-hmm. And so when Jackson, has that crazy junior and senior year at Stillwater, I was like, you know what? He is that good. He really is that good. This is like, you start hearing rumors, and the poor kid is the son of a major leaguer.
Right.
And those kids have an extra pressure. You got to perform when you're a son of a big leaguer. Okay. And so Jackson just did every time. And people walk by going, is he better than Matt? Well, you're asking the grandfather. You're asking me about my grandson and my kid. It'd be like crazy conversations. I mean, stupid. Right. I get to look at him. One's 6'4" and the other one's 6 foot, and I say, well, Jackson can run a little bit better than Matt, even though Matt could run. And then by the time I get done, I didn't tell him anything. All they knew was I was just as much in awe as they were.
That's awesome.
So,
hey, so TH, so we'll come back to Jackson in a second, but so Ethan is a junior now, right? Like, so, and Brady is a freshman. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And they'll have, in theory, they'll be in high school for 2 years together.
Yeah. They'll play together. They're playing together right now. They practice right now. And Brady's the glove guy. He's the best of all of them with the glove, and has been for years. I mean, he puts on a show before games, just throwing balls off the wall and catching them. And he doesn't know it, but pro scouts are even watching that because of what his last name is. And Brady's just a little bit slow right now getting the physical strength to reach his potential. But he can really play with the glove, short
That's
or
awesome. And the coach I talked to today said that Brady's feel for the game is really intense. Like it's kind of like what you described in Josh. Like Brady is a thinker of the game.
Brady probably right now at 15 probably knows the game as well as any 20-year-old. I mean,
yeah.
He goes to practices, he goes to games. I mean, he internalizes the game. We'll see. I mean, Mike, that's the only thing we've done with all of them is we'll see. You know, a lot of people questioned Ethan, and all of a sudden he hit a growing spurt, and then it was like now they're measuring balls off the bat, 103, 104, 105. I just see it come off the bat and leave the ballpark. That's a home run. I mean, and that's a pretty good jolt. That's a good swing. That's all I care about. But all the numbers just start matching up. And before you know it, a really good friend of mine, Jackson Sr. in high school from California, flew in, and I hadn't seen him in 3 or 4 years. And he's like, hey, you know what? He says, Jackson's for real. And I said, yeah. He goes, I think the second one is going to be the first 1-1 in the state of Oklahoma. And I was like, what, 1-1? What do you mean 1-1? He goes, first round, first pick. And I said, oh my God. Wow, that's a big gorilla. Don't go throwing that out there. And he goes, oh no, I'm telling you. He goes, I'm watching those two hitting the same batting order. Wow. And of course, there's Matt sitting over there along the fence, just watching them and not overly involved, just being dad and letting them, experience ups and downs. And of course, Ethan wants to be as good as Jackson. And, they got to hold on to that brotherly love. That's important. And, the people that'll say, oh, this second one's better than the first one. Pretty hard to be better than what Jackson did.
Yeah.
So, let's just see. Because Ethan's going to be special, but let's just see.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, so Matt's minor league. So Matt has I knew Matt was a big time quarterback. I didn't realize I just never thought it through. It was, obviously that's very intense when you've got a kid who's a national recruit as a quarterback, and it clouds the prospect status. So Matt, it becomes kind of like this last minute entry into professional baseball. He's a 7th rounder, and the Rockies were really patient with him. If I'm not mistaken, Matt didn't get to the big leagues till he's like 24. And then Jackson has had the opposite experience where he did literally everything last year but play for the Baltimore Orioles. What has that been like for you as you watch that? Like, like with Matt, where it was so measured, and Jackson, it's like this rocket ship.
Well, Mike, times change. Baseball has changed, and I think it's changed by design. They eliminated a couple years of minor leagues. There's only 4 minor league stops now. There used to be 6, and you could even hold kids in extra spring training. And now it's like it's a little bit tougher, but the commissioner wants guys from college to go straight to the big leagues. He wants it to be a little bit like football, and you and I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So for high school guys to come out and make that jump and run as fast as Jackson did last year, you just sit there and watch it and say, where's the wall?
Mm-hmm. We
all hit a wall, and it'll happen. And the good part of it will be to watch him bounce off the wall, because baseball is a humbling experience. And then after you understand that it's just 90 feet to first base, guys throw 90, they throw 95, they throw 100. You still got to do the right things with your swing and your approach. And to have a dad that's been through it and be able to talk to him every night about, like, don't get, some nights a pitcher's going to make you say, wow, struck me out 3 times. I don't know. Maybe I'm not that good. Well, the pitcher had a good night, or maybe it's just one night. But Jackson understands it is just one night, and it has changed. And the quick run last summer was kind of fun. We're watching it, and I tried to go see him at every stop just to go see him, and here he is. The game never changed. So, it's quicker. Matt put in 4.5 years in the minor leagues, and He had Tommy John after his third year, and for a position player, that was a little bit spooky, but he came off of it really well. And Mike, the funny part is I knew Matt was going to play in the big leagues because he dedicated himself. When he gave up football, he made a big decision, and the struggles he had were normal, but when he finally felt good, and he had a winter. When I was living in Austin, he had a winter of preparation. He felt so good going to camp, and he tore up spring training. And they still put him at AAA to start the year. And I was like, that's a surprise to me. And then, you sit there going, maybe he's going to play for somebody else. And then Preston Wilson got hurt. Matt got called up, and somebody had whispered to me that Preston had a bad knee. And don't be surprised if Matt's up there in a week. 10 days, Matt was up in the big leagues, and he never looked back, and he never came back. So, yeah, it's a little different.
That's awesome. All right, so TH, let me ask you this. You and Kathy have had some incredible experiences as parents and grandparents in baseball. And so I'm going to ask you, which is the one that grabbed you where you're like, oh my gosh, is this real? Are we really experiencing this as a family? And I might not name the one that's top of mind for you, but for instance, you've watched your son Matt play in the World Series. I can't even imagine that. You've watched your son Josh take a team to Omaha as a head coach in college baseball. You've watched your grandson be the first pick in the entire draft. And maybe there's another one, but is there a moment for you? I'm going to ask you to speak on behalf of you and Kathy here, but is it one of those three moments? Is it those three moments? Am I missing one? Because those moments to me are just pinch myself moments.
Well, Mike, Coach Ward and I had a lot of pretty serious conversations over the years. And when we ran to Omaha 7 years in a row, the fans at Oklahoma State, they actually, when we didn't go, they were mad. And I thought that was kind of funny, but, at the time, it just kind of motivated you.
Yeah.
So we went to every third year, and that still wasn't acceptable. So when I left here and got to go have fun again, working for guys that I really enjoyed, the success that we had at NC State, we got to the College World Series, and Elliott was in one of those moments in his career when I went there that he had some people on his butt, they threatening to, get him and all that. And I knew it was going to be a challenge, and it was. And I really liked helping him and working with him, getting to the College World Series at NC State and seeing, 300 or 400 people waiting for us at a hotel. And they hadn't been there in forever. I don't know how long it was, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
That was a moment. But I think my number one was when I got back here. We had moved back here, and Josh took a team to Omaha in 2016. And I was like, here's a kid that played in the College World Series twice. And, he didn't sign after his junior year because he wanted to get back there one more time. So his senior year, we had a really good team, but they all got hurt always. And I had to really, really manage that club. Every bench guy got to play because, my left fielder would be out for 2 weeks. And, and so Josh led the country. He got hit 45 times or something. And I'm like, geez, I was, So we beat Baylor at Baylor in the first super regional. And they had Jason Jennings, who was the college player of the year. But when we beat them to go to Omaha, that was probably the one moment I remember.
That's so great. That's so great. Yep. That's a good one. And that NC State, that was Trey Turner, Carlos Rodon. That was that crew, right?
Yeah. Great kid. Great. We had a kid named Austin, who was a catcher. Elliott had always had a good team. He just couldn't get over the proverbial hump. And people down there with North Carolina having good years, and you know how that is. When Arizona State's struggling and Arizona's doing good, you got problems.
Yeah, that's
Oklahoma's doing good. Oklahoma State, you better, or you're going to have problems. So Elliott had that going on. Carolina was really, really good.
Yeah, they were on a run.
Running through really good big leaguers too. So when we finally hit the jackpot, we got a couple kids that were Rodon was close to being ready to carry you. Trey was a project, but an unbelievable athlete. But the other guys around him were good.
Yeah.
So we ended up clicking, and that sophomore year for both of those kids, I think if they had more college World Series experience, I think we could have won the national title at NC State. I think so, but the moment got real big, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I won't ever take that away from going to Omaha. That's a big deal, and yeah, I've been there 17 times, but you know what? Every one of them was fun. I mean, they're all fun. The only thing about it, Mike, is to win it. That's the thing that you'll never forget, is to win it. And I think it's what keeps the good coaches today in it. Keeps them in it, because the business has changed. It's a different working environment right now than it ever was for me.
Yep. Well said. Yeah, and you're right. I don't care if you go as a broadcaster, what you go as, it's unbelievable. Hey, so TH, let's end on this one. So I mean this is the sincerest compliment I could give you. Your broadcast, so you get to do broadcasting for Oklahoma State now. For me, your games are on ESPN Plus all the time. So, of course, I watch the games because the Big 12 is a power conference in our sport, and because, Josh always has really relevant and good teams. Your broadcasts are so fun. You view the game through an incredible prism. You're almost a little bit like our Charles Barkley, where you're going to say things, maybe it's the Pittsburgh person in you, but you're going to say things that maybe I wouldn't have the courage to say. I love that. I don't know if your family members encourage you to do that, but I personally love it. But it's the best. Your broadcasts are so fun. So here's the question we're going to wrap on. You and I get to be the commissioners of college baseball for the next 5 minutes. And so the question is, we could make one move. We could move one chess piece. I'll give you my answer. My answer would be we would expand the field to 72 teams, the tournament, and we would do 32 hosts. So it's all 3-game series. We do Thursday night playing games. Let's spread the love on these hosts, because they are getting pretty congregated in one place. And then, let's have more teams get in. So we have too many schools taking it seriously to be stuck at 64. That's my personal opinion. How about for you, TH? Is it that idea? Is there a different idea? If you're the commissioner of college baseball, you can move one chess piece. What would you change?
Well, what I would do, Mike, is I think that summer baseball is like it's in the wrong place now. The draft sits in July.
Yeah.
Kids that are draft eligible from the end of the season to July, their minds are all screwed up. It's after the draft they find out what they have to do. So why not just take college baseball into the summer? Why are we in a hurry to end it? And so why not go, like you said, 72 teams, 36 teams host a 5-game series, and it's important to be one of the top 36. I mean, it makes that ranking serious. Go out and hire 5 former head baseball coaches in college baseball that care and love college baseball. Hire those guys for $25,000. Let them see who the best teams are, so that you don't walk around having somebody say, oh, the committee did this, the committee did that. No, the top 36 host that 5-game series. Then the top 36 teams, bring it back down again. Now you're into 18.
Mm-hmm.
Take that 18 and let them play a 3 or a 5-game set. And at no time, Mike, after the first round, should anybody be at home. I would stick that second round of 36 in major league ballparks around the country. Make everybody travel. That's the beauty of college basketball. Nobody ever gets to play on their own court. So when they have a national champion, they're the national champions. But if you get to host a regional and a super regional, you should end up in Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the percentage is still high.
Very high, yep.
I'd like to see that second round to get to Omaha, be it a neutral site, give the kids the best experience of a lifetime.
Ooh.
Designate Wrigley Field, Yankee Stadium, designate it, and then put the teams in there and have that committee of 5 guys that take this sport like you, that are serious, that study the teams. Let those guys match them up, and let's have a real playoff. Because I I think super regionals are, man, you got to really stumble or get somebody hurt to screw it up.
Yes, although it does feel like I tell everyone like Omaha looks like it'd be the most nerve-wracking thing. I don't know if you'd agree with me, TH. Like I got to coach in one super regional. I felt like I couldn't breathe for an entire weekend. I think my wife couldn't breathe for the entire weekend. Like just the pressure of a super regional where if you win, like there's no bad season that ends in Omaha. You get to Omaha, like I don't care how many times you've been there, it's awesome, right? You lose a super regional, it is like the soul crushing experience of a lifetime. Oh my gosh, yeah,
You know what, Mike? The funniest reaction is you leave Omaha, and if you don't win it, you don't even remember who was there.
right,
You don't win it. People only remember who won it.
right.
It vanishes. It's like, oh, they were in Omaha last year. That team, I didn't know that. Forgot that, because that's how intense it is for coaches. You know, you're chasing one thing and one thing only, and if you get eliminated, you almost want to crawl out of there on a midnight bus because you're embarrassed, and yet you were one of the best 8 teams in America.
Yep.
You know, and when you win it, now I can tell you this: I spent many hours with Augie after we won the national title, and they should have been on tape because he was an entertainer, and
Yes, he was.
His take on life is second to nobody. And I mean, he was like, the kids really need to enjoy this because you become a different person when you win a national championship. And I'm sitting there going, I don't get it. What are you talking about? And he goes, you wait, we're going to win tomorrow. You're going to be a different guy. You know, you've been close. And the last time you were part of it, you were 18, or I was 22, I guess, 22 or 23, and I was at Arizona State. And you know how Coach Brock was. It was almost like it was all his, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't one of those guys that shared it like the guys do now. But the bottom line was, Augie was like, it will change your life. And I was like, okay. So then we get there. We're playing for the national title. And honestly, I just kept saying, nothing's changing me. Except I had 2 rooms. And in the second room, I had 7 TVs. I had every team in Omaha. I had film. I had a manager, equipment manager, that was worse than a coach. He had every piece of film he could on every team. Mike, when we played those teams that year in like 05 or 06, I knew those players on the other team as well as I knew mine. And
It's incredible.
everybody did their homework. And when we won, I mean, I heard that same manager speak at a luncheon in Houston. And he said it was kind of weird because he quoted Augie was, give it your best. All you can do is give 100%. And so he felt like he gave it 100%, and he felt like he was part of us winning a national title, a manager.
It's awesome.
So I knew then why Augie was so effective.
Yeah, so great. Oh, it's so great. TH, this was so fun. I could keep you another 2 hours. We won't do that. This was such a blast. And I just, your career is just amazing, and the way you've lifted people up. And I think about, what does every parent want? They want the next generation to maybe move the ball a little bit further than they did. And then the next generation, and you and Kathy's legacy is just so incredible. Your legacy in the game, even if Matt and Josh had never even played baseball, was incredible. So thank you for doing this. This was an absolute blast. Man, this was so fun. And I can't wait to see you once the season gets started. For everyone listening, we'll be back here the next couple Sunday nights. Next week, we're going to have Mitch Gaspard and Tim Jamison, who are former SEC head coaches, who are now doing really great stuff as an assistant coach, which is always an interesting and awesome path. Those are 2 of the best people in the game. So that is it. We will be back next time. Let's wrap it right there. I want to say thanks again to our friends at Netting Pros. And that is it. Everyone have a great week, and we will catch you next time on Sunday Night Conversations.